Hi guys, it's Abbey Jo. I am so excited for today's video because today we are going to talk about relocating your business to a new city or state. And I've experienced this twice now, not in a super big scale, but big enough to see a difference and difficulty with building up clientele. So the first time was when I moved home from college. So I went to school at Biola down in Southern California in the Anaheim area, kind of close to Anaheim. And moved back to Northern California when I graduated in 2019. And I moved home, and I had already been running my business in Southern California. I kind of started the core of my business in SoCal while I was in school, and really felt like I kind of was already on a good wavelength there because I knew so many people in college. I was getting a lot of weddings through that and just the connections I was making down there. So moving to Northern California was a little bit of a shock for me and my business, being like, oh, okay, we're really starting from scratch. And I was still really small at the time. But I will say, there are a lot of things that I learned in that transition when I moved home, where I realized a lot of the people in my hometown didn't even know I was back. Even though I thought that they were paying attention to what I was sharing online, I would still see people all the time in coffee shops or random places. And they'd be like, wait, what the heck? You're home? You're here? And I'm like, yeah, I graduated, didn't you see? But obviously, I can't expect everyone to pay attention to every detail of my life. So I realized okay, I gotta really market myself more and put it out there that I'm taking shoots up here and doing NorCal photography now and all that stuff. So it was interesting transitioning into that. And then also, I had started building my business, and then in 2020, I really went hard with it, but it was still hard because of the pandemic. So I could only do so much at that time, but I really tried to go as hard as I could while I could, and really build the clientele that I had before we moved to San Diego. So I was doing really well, at least with weddings at that time, because that's what I was doing. And there's totally a market up there for that, 100%, but definitely not as much as Southern California. Once we moved to San Diego, which was August of 2021, we really realized whoa, this is crazy how many more opportunities are down here. And we aren't even that close to LA. Okay, we're close to LA, but we're not right next to LA. So San Diego alone has so much to offer. And I didn't even realize that until we moved down here. And I was like, oh, dang, this is cool. So we moved to San Diego, and I was still doing weddings at the time. I had stopped taking wedding clients in Northern California, between May and June, I think, of 2021. And because we knew we were going to move to San Diego, but it was all based around when Zach was going to get a new job. And he had a whole interview process that took 2 months almost. So once we knew we were moving to San Diego for sure, I was like, okay, now I know for sure I'm going to not take any more Northern California clients. So I had stopped taking them pretty early on and was just trying to prepare for that transition by doing that. And was even starting to put out there hashtags for San Diego and hashtags for Southern California, and even change my SEO, I think, before we moved down there to Southern California keywords. So that's what I did, and I feel it really helped me by the time that we moved down there, was kind of prepping beforehand and prepping a couple months in advance with the back end of things and trying to market myself down there before I really announced it. So I did see that actually become helpful because I did start getting inquiries for clients in Southern California once I started doing that. And I was like, okay, so this is good. That's a good sign, We moved to San Diego, and honestly, a month after we moved here, I think there was 2 weeks. It was between a 2-week span where I ended up getting 60 inquiries or something crazy like that for weddings and couples. And I'm telling you right now, I had never experienced anything like that in Northern California. And was just whoa, okay, there is way more opportunity down here than I thought there was, even with weddings. And so that was really cool to see and kind of realize whoa, it really does kind of depend on where you live, how much flow of clientele you get. At least from my experience and what I have seen, it seems like that's the case. Maybe it's not for everyone, but for me, I was like, wow, it definitely depends on where I live. So I had a couple smaller brands reach out to me kind of asking me to do some shoots for them, and I started to do that a little bit and was like, oh, cool, sweet. this is definitely an option here. And then once I really started to feel the things I was feeling about switching out of weddings, I was like, okay, yeah, like this is totally possible for me because of where I live. And honestly, if I had thought about leaving weddings in Northern California, I don't even know if brands would have been on my mind. Like they might have been, but I probably would have been like, I don't even know what to do, because there was not really much to offer up there for like locations I could shoot in for brands and different things like that. And I would have to travel a lot essentially if I wanted to really get into that. And that just wasn't realistic once I got married. So I realized, okay, sweet, like I am here, I'm gonna niche into this beach thing and just go full speed ahead into that with brands. And I did that, and it was so helpful. Obviously, I am still working on that. To be totally candid, like it hasn't been like all success. I'm still learning and still trying to figure out how to really like seal the deal with a lot of brands. But thankfully, I've had some really awesome opportunities thus far, and they're opportunities that I would not have had in Northern California, like at all. So I really truly believe that where you live totally will play a huge factor into the opportunities that you have in the photography world. So that's huge. So think about where you want to live. If you want to relocate and you have the option to choose where you relocate, I totally recommend going somewhere with a really big population, maybe not far from a big city. For San Diego specifically, this is a destination location. Since we moved here, I have gotten so many couples that have been traveling here on their honeymoon or for vacation or anything. Like people literally will just travel here and get a shoot done because it's an awesome location and they would be able to do a shoot. So I've had all sorts of different potential clients like that where they're like, oh yeah, like I'm coming to San Diego on this date. Like I'd love to book a shoot with you. And so knowing like, okay, I live in a destination location and this is definitely going to play a huge factor in all of that. So that is something to look into. If you want to move somewhere that your business will succeed, go somewhere with a big population or a destination location of some sort. So like Florida, for example, I'm sure there's lots of clientele down there based on how many people vacation there. So that's something to think about. I also would say going into your website and changing your SEO and re-hashtagging, new hashtags and catering that towards wherever you're moving to and kind of prepping and then keep continuing to do that once you move there is huge. And I think that can definitely help a lot. So I definitely recommend diving deep into that stuff and maybe trying to learn a little more about SEO and marketing and stuff like that on the back end so that you can really succeed wherever you're planning to go. That's why YouTube is your friend. I feel like there's so much education on YouTube and we don't use it enough. Like at least I don't use it enough. There's definitely moments where I'm like, oh, I could definitely learn this on YouTube. And once I do end up doing that, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot we can learn from each other and online. Another thing too, whenever you move to your new location is to just announce it over and over and over again that you live there and maybe share your life there, like the locations you explore and the locations you're shooting in. And that's another thing too, is putting together tons of shoots in that new place that you live. So finding the best locations and, the good spots that people shoot in and you start doing some shoots there and then promote that, put that on your website, put it everywhere. Cause for example, if you were to move to San Diego and you don't have anything San Diego related in your portfolio, no one's really going to know that you shoot here and you book clients here. So for instance, everyone knows what Sunset Cliffs is pretty much. If you've heard of San Diego and you're a photographer, you've probably seen pictures of people at Sunset Cliffs. And that is down in Point Loma. It's a very popular place to take photos. Honestly, a little too popular. It can get so crowded there, even just with tourists watching the sunset and exploring that area. It can get a little crowded. But it is a great place to promote that you live in San Diego. It's shooting in locations in your new town or city that are very quintessential to that place is important because then people know, oh yeah, that's totally San Diego. Oh, this person shoots there. Oh wow, cool. I can book them there. So that's important, I think, when you're kind of promoting your business again in a new place, is really being able to actually show, hey, I shoot here. Here are the locations I shoot in. This is where I live, because that plays a huge factor into that. If I were to move to San Diego and only be sharing photos that I've taken in other places, but then like tagging San Diego or like hashtagging, that doesn't really make sense. Like people will still be like, oh, well, that's not San Diego, they must not live here. So you really should go out there and just put the work in to build that portfolio, maybe attend a content day or a styled shoot or something, and just try to get as much as you can that you can share and put out there into the world. So I know that this can also be kind of tricky when you're relocating, is how do you like basically cut off all of your old clients and only book in the new location. So like for instance, a lot of people will move and then they're still getting inquiries from their hometown or wherever they were living before, and they don't know how to like transition that out, and also don't know how to like not take those because you need the work. But I think it's really important to cut that off and be like, I'm so sorry, no, like I'm not going to take clients there anymore, and focus on where you're at as much as you can financially, because I know not everyone has that financial freedom. I thankfully have a lot of financial freedom in that because my husband is the breadwinner of our household income. I still need to make enough, but I also have way more freedom in that we can fall back on his income rather than only relying on mine. So there is freedom for me in that. So I know that not everybody has that. So obviously do whatever you can, but it is hard to transition out of that if you are still going back and traveling back to whatever location you were in before to take on clients from the place you used to live. So that's something to think about as you're thinking about going somewhere new and how you're going to go about that. But hopefully this is helpful. I honestly, I always approach these topics with feeling like I don't have that much knowledge, helpful advice, but I definitely love being able to offer what I do know and what I have learned. So obviously there's probably way more out there that you could learn about that, but I think one of the biggest ways to learn is by doing, and that is something that I've done and something that I've learned from. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys, and please let me know in the comments if that was helpful, and if you have any other questions about that, or if there's anything else you want to know or learn about. But yeah, so thanks for joining, and thanks for watching all the way through if you made it through that. If you want to see more and see my videos pop up whenever there's a new one, feel free to subscribe. I would love for you to join the party. So yeah, other than that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you next time.